Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Brady Haye Mortgage Team podcast. I'm your host, Brady Haye. Super grateful today to have another guest joining me today. As you guys all know, my number one priority with this podcast is to build quality relationships with quality people and grow together. That's really what it's all about. So today's guest is frankly probably my longest tenured friend of a guest so far. We have been friends for, I'm going to lose track of time, but I'm going to spitball 15 to 20 years, if not longer. A good friend of mine. We went to high school together. He's grown to be, and I don't want to tease any of the exciting things he's doing, but he's grown to be one of the most successful golf teachers in the United States. Super excited for him to join us today, kind of share more about his journey, how he's really kind of found a passion in the game of golf. We've obviously bonded over that for the years. So without further ado, introducing our guest today, his name is Justin Kraft. Justin, thanks for joining me, man.
Geez, what an intro.
Not bad, huh?
Got big shoes to fill with that intro. Yeah,
no pressure, right?
It has to be at least 15 years.
Yeah, what's the math? How old are we now? We're way too old.
Well, it's 2025 today. So at least 2010, and we would have been in high school at that point.
Yeah, that would have been what, my junior year, your sophomore year, probably?
Yeah, probably. I might have been a freshman that year, but I think we were 2 years apart. But anyway, we were playing golf at Spring Lake far before that.
The good old days. And we'll get into that too. I want to, obviously I want to focus on who you are, what do you do, things like that. But also at some point today, we'll chat about the good old days of you and I at the old golf course and all the good stuff. But yeah, just to kind of start off, I guess, kind of give everybody a high level view. Who are you? What do you do? And what kind of hats do you wear?
Yeah, so I am the director of instruction at Spring Hill Golf Club in Wayzata, Minnesota, so just west of Minneapolis. I've been teaching golf for actually 6 years now, which is unbelievable to say. But we're a very kind of private club up here, very, I would say, prestigious, pretty nice golf course.
Yeah.
Consistently ranks in the top 3 on Golf Digest, best courses in Minnesota. It's been ranked in the top 100 before multiple times, depending on what magazine and whatnot that you look at. So long story short, I give golf lessons to really cool people all day, every day.
That's so cool. What a dream, huh?
Yeah, seriously.
Did you ever think when you were, because I mean, you've been playing golf a long time, but really probably started to take it seriously, right when we got into high school, I would say, as far as at least, trying to really perfect it anyways. Did you ever even dream in a million years that you'd be able to make it into a career?
No, never thought about, actually didn't even, out of college, didn't even try to make it a career. So I was a banker for
I was going to say, does now seem like a good time to tell everybody what you used to do?
I was a banker for 6 months at least. And
so you kind of experienced my world a little bit for at least a short stint there.
I know nothing. I remember Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. That's it. That's all I remember.
Mortgage guidelines. How about that?
And interest rates are way higher than they were when I was
in confirm.
I just I didn't have a lot of fulfillment. I didn't have a lot of joy. I'm sure if I would have stuck with it longer, it might have gotten better. But I found my joy at the golf course. And it didn't matter what I was doing. If I was playing, watching others play, teaching. I used to love when the Dakotas tour would come up to Northwest Iowa. And all the guys that were crazy good at golf would come shoot 18 under in 3 rounds. And I would go watch that religiously. And I'd be like, how are you guys so good at golf? And then to find out that they aren't even good enough to play on the PGA Tour, a lot of them. So anyway, I always had this happiness associated with golf. And one day I just finally told my wife, I'm like, look, if I can work in the golf industry, A, I'll never work a day in my life. And B, I'm just so passionate about it. I think it would be hard for me to completely fail. I think there's no promises that I'll be amazing, but I probably won't fall flat on my face just because I love it that much. So never really thought, growing up that I would ever coach golf, but I did, kind of in those high school days, college days, I was so fascinated with how day to day, even swing to swing, it would feel like I did the same thing and I would get different outcomes, and it drove me nuts. And it's just I'm still trying to figure out why. Everyone uses the big C word. I want to be consistent.
If you could do me a favor and let me know if you ever figure it out, I'd like to know.
And I'll charge $10,000 a lesson and I'll work 5 days a week. It'll be great.
I mean, listen.
Correct.
If it meant hitting perfect golf shots every single time, I kind of think $10,000 might be worth it.
Yeah, for sure. So still on the quest, right, to figure out why. But I think the intrinsic curiosity over why does one shot go there and then one go there and that one felt good and I thought I did the same thing, but it didn't. that has driven me to research, study, and teach like as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, and even in the short 6 years ish that you've been doing this, I think you've kind of found, at least this is my perspective from afar, right? Obviously, it's not like I'm in your day to day per se, but I can tell you from what I've followed along with your journey, it seems as though you found kind of this niche where your passion for learning how the swing works, how the game of golf works, passing that along to people who don't have the knowledge that you do. Like, how cool is that you get to be a resource for people and bring even more happiness to the game, right? Because at the end of the day, I think we all can accept the fact that golf is incredibly hard. So if
Yes.
you can make it even just a little bit easier for the people you interact with, that's got to be a huge win, right?
Yeah, totally. So like that's where, even when I like started my social media page, people ask me, why'd you start the social media page? I'm like, because I wanted to help one person by 1%. I thought if I could help one person because of a post I made, that it would be worth it. And then like as instructors, we talk about the world golf handicap, the average world golf handicap, right? Like are
Yeah.
golfers getting better or worse? Drivers are better, golf balls are better. Are people shooting lower scores? And one thing is like I've always said, if I could leave my mark and lower that thing by 0.01 just because of me, that would be awesome. So just the joy, it's a lifelong sport and there's nothing like hitting a solid shot, right? Like we get that dopamine rush.
Nothing
Everybody
better.
loves it. Being able to see that, not just on like kids are the best, right? Because like they've never hit it in the air, they've never hit it straight, whatever. They do it one time, they're hooked. Now they've got a sport for their whole life. There's something so invaluable about that. But then also like the guy who's been struggling for 3 months, like this dude can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're able to provide at least a glimpse of it, all of a sudden, hope is everything.
Yeah.
And they feel like they can fall back in love with it and pursue whatever it is they need to pursue to make it more fun.
And this is just me more just being curious more than anything, but is it safe to say that it's the impact you get to have on the people almost just as much as it is the actual game itself, right? Like I have to imagine, like as much as obviously you love being really talented at the game of golf too, I have to imagine that your position is so much more valuable because you get to see the positive impact you have on the people you interact with, right?
Totally.
Like
It's so fun. I get an email every morning what my students shot if they posted a score. And it's so rewarding. Like when the guy who came to you shooting 96, he broke 80 for the first time. But that's not even the coolest part because, their kid just got selected to the National Honor Society and that their other kid just graduated college and that they just opened this new business that's successful. Like, great. I'm so glad you broke 80. But the relationship we get to build is just so much. It carries so much more weight.
Yeah, and I think that that's very transferable from industry to industry, right? And I think that's something that you and I definitely share is like, and to be honest, your position's a lot cooler than mine. Like the game of golf is way cooler than home loans. But I'll tell you is like I can tell you from a fact I'm not genuinely in love with mortgages, right? Like I don't wake up every morning and be like I love giving people loans for money, right? What I do is I love helping them navigate an incredibly challenging part of their life, right? And you've been through the home buying process before.
Yeah.
If you partner with good people, it can be a pretty painless process. But the moment that there's any nuances or one-offs or any sort of finicky aspect of it, it can be stressful for people, right? It's the home is the biggest aspect or the biggest asset you'll ever own. So what my passion is more helping simplify that process. And I think that relates well to you in the game of golf.
Totally.
Golf is incredibly hard. So if you can just do any part of your life to make that a little bit easier for the people you get to interact with, that's a huge win, right?
100%. Could not agree more. It's correct. It's so rewarding.
I love it. Because I mean, listen, if you don't have the people to pour into, there's no there's no satisfactory out of that, right? Like as much as it is cool for yourself to learn how to hit a better golf shot, which you've become pretty good at, might I add. At least I assume so. It's been a while since you and I played, which we need to talk about that anyways. But
I used to be pretty solid.
I think that's awesome. Okay, so let's kind of talk between. So we've talked about your current role, right? And at some point in this, I want to have you touch on because you wear a couple different hats, right? Obviously, Spring Hill's one. You have some other exciting things going on as well that we'll touch on here in a sec. But I want to talk about the journey between the days where you and I were out at Spring Lake and when you landed your first position in golf. What did that transition look like?
Yeah, I started as the banker, right? And then was really looking for any golf entity or course or anything that would hire me and say, sure, Justin, like come work in golf. And the only place I could really find was, and I love them, Golf Tech in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, which was a 4.5 hour, drive away from family, away from any potential babysitters if kids were to come along, right? Like, so it was kind of scary. I was taking my wife away from her job.
Yeah.
But I was like, listen, I'm going to be so happy if we can do this, and I'll find a way, right?
Yeah.
So I worked at Golf Tech for 2 years, gained so much knowledge, taught a ton of lessons. So they have like just this massive amount of people that come take lessons from them. So it was a great exposure for me. I was able to like teach a ton of golf lessons, learn a ton of stuff. They have motion measurement systems that kind of help me understand what the body does during the swing and the relationship between different things. So anyway, I did that for a couple of years, and then I decided, I would really like to understand, do I want to be an instructor or do I want to like work at a golf course and be like a head pro?
Sure.
And so I can tell you this didn't last long. I was there for 1 season, but I went down to Carolina Country Club. I was an assistant pro there. I got into kind of the tournament stuff. I got into the kind of the merchandising stuff. And that was like weeks. It was like the same thing with banking. I was like, this is not it.
And keep in mind, you not only that, but you also moved across the country.
I moved across the country again. So I only went 4 hours north the first time.
But then you ended up in the Carolinas.
Ended up in Raleigh, North Carolina for
a 4.5 hour plane ride.
Yeah, 24-hour car ride with the dog. So anyway, we get down there, and I didn't hate it. The weather was awesome. But my job I didn't love. I didn't have I didn't wake up every day excited like I did when I was teaching.
You don't like putting in orders for polos and shoes?
I don't. I'm bad at that. And reorganizing the I'm not so good at that.
Somebody needs to do it, but it wasn't meant for you.
And bless those guys because they are good at it. And I walk into the golf shop here and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. You guys are good. So I stuck it out. I didn't want to quit mid-season, right? So I wait till kind of towards the end of the year, kind of finish the season out, and then I'm looking for jobs back in Iowa, Minnesota, Kansas City, wherever. I'm just like, we got to get a little closer to home, and I got to find a teaching spot again because I really didn't like that. So luckily, I had a couple years under my belt with Golf Tech, and I kind of understood how a golf course or a green grass facility would operate. And Medina Country Club, just 10 minutes north of Spring Hill, took a chance on me, and that's where I was able to lead a junior program that I thought was really successful. I was able to teach a bunch of golf lessons to a variety of people. Ended up in 2022, got pretty lucky. I won the Youth Development Award for the Minnesota PGA. It was on my wall. It fell the other day.
Hey, at least it didn't break.
It did not break, which was exciting. And then so after that, kind of I had a good, I want to say 2 seasons at Medina. And I was really I wasn't really looking, but Spring Hill was looking for director of instruction. I got really lucky to be considered for this. And here I am, and I'm living the dream.
History then.
Yeah, for sure. The membership here is literally unbelievable, and I'm just around so many great people and people that are successful at what they do. It's hard not to like learn from them and just be a sponge and absorb how successful they are and try to mimic those tendencies.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so now it's Spring Hill. And I think it's important to point out, and we'll talk about it later too, but like you're in a position where, and you got to forgive me because I'm touching on this from just basically what I've consumed over.
Yeah, I'll correct if it's wrong.
Yeah. So you're in a position where you're representing and working for a club, and you're helping educate and instruct their members. It's a private club, right?
Yep.
But I also think you're in a unique position where you've been able to grow a following online and give instruction outside of the club as well.
For sure.
And that has led to a more recent announcement that you've been able to announce.
Yeah, rip it off.
Do you want to do the honors? I mean, this is already public. But you want to tell the people what's been happening?
The Kraftygolf Studio is going to be opening in just a few weeks here up in Plymouth, Minnesota. So really what that place is, I know that there's golf simulator facilities, right? They serve their beer and pizza and wings, and you watch the Vikings get smacked on Monday night football against the Rams. and you play golf while you do it. It's a great thing. But
Yeah.
this is not that place. So this is a player development facility. If you want to go to a place where it is impossible not to get better at golf, this is where you should go. And so it's a membership-based only facility. It's open 24 hours a day. You book a bay online. You get an email on your phone. You swipe it at the door. It lets you in. Inside is three TrackMan bays. So TrackMan is the gold standard of launch monitor technology. It's going to tell you insane amounts of data about what your club is doing when it hits the ball, what the ball does when it takes off, and it'll even like some AI stuff will guide you through and tell you what you should be working on.
Sure.
In conjunction with that, I have a software called Sportsbox 3D, who is amazing. It's actually very similar to like Golf Tech where I started. It is markerless motion measurement. So basically what that means for golfers out there, if you make a swing and you've been working on not sliding your hips in the backswing but turning instead, you can put up two numbers on the screen and it'll say, okay, Brady, well, your hips slid 2.2 inches away from the target. Just so you know, tour pros, they kind of hover between +1 towards the target and
so they
-1.
don't do that.
Yeah, and you really don't do that. So it'll color it red and it'll say, Brady, work on that. And then every swing you make, it'll tell you, oh, that was better. That was yellow. That was only 1.5 inches away. And then eventually until you
so
get
you
to
can
green,
tell the software what you're trying to work on, and it'll give you immediate feedback.
100%. So the software will like obviously watch you hit a ball. And then as the coach, I can manually override and say, hey, I want this guy to work on his lead arm is bent 33 degrees. I want it less than 10 degrees. Like you can just do that.
Yeah.
You could say he's only turning his shoulder 70 degrees. I want you to turn them at least 90 degrees. So every swing you make, it'll show you, oh, at the top of the backswing, that was 88 degrees. You're so close. Like it'll do all that stuff. So, and the level of the depth of the numbers that you can get, the trackers you can get is outrageous. I'm talking about
right?
It can analyze how your wrist is moving. It can identify your sequence. If you start your downswing with your lower body, your upper body, your arms, your club, whatever it is, there's a way to measure it. And that's really where I have found the answer to my question that I don't have yet, right? Why does one shot feel good and the other one not? It's not going to be something intrinsic that I'm like, oh, well, if I think about butterflies when I swing, I hit it good. Like, that's not true because I've tried to think about butterflies. It worked once and it didn't work another day. So there's something else. So I have to be able to measure these things if I want to actually get down to why. And I need, technology and even people that are way smarter than me to help me understand it. So that's where it's like anything I can measure, I want to measure. But anyway, studio. So that's a feature. There's a bunch of TVs on the wall for data, ball flight. There are 3 cameras in every bay. So you can have 3 different camera angles of your swing at any time. And then there's also like an abundance of training aids, high level training aids from like Hack Motion and DeWiz, which are sensors you put on your arms and they tell you how much your forearms are rotating or extending or hinging your wrist, all this stuff, your hand speed, when they slow down, how long the backswing is, all of this crazy stuff. And the best part, like I said, is you don't have to go in there blind. All of the stuff actually tells you, oh, just so you know, this is what you're doing. It colors it red and it says, let's try to go towards green. That'll be way easier for you. So I just want to create a facility, and it's going to do it, that makes it impossible for people not to get better when they walk in.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think that if there's anything that we can learn from that is that golf is a very technical sport, right? Like even the little nuances can impact the result. And I guess my question for you would be is like, how do you navigate? Because I have to imagine every person you interact with that wants to get better has a different perspective of knowledge, right? On what they know impacts their swing and stuff. And like, how do you take the approach to handle that differently from client to client, right? Because if you get Fred, who has a very minimal knowledge of the golf swing and how it is impacted, and then you have George, who has far more knowledge, how do you as the instructor edit your process from, because I'm sure you've worked with people of all different skill levels. So how do you navigate that, I guess? How do you make sure that they're able to consume everything and see results depending on their skill level?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's one that coaches like always trying to get better at it. So I will never say that I've perfected it, but I think this is where asking questions about a person's background is pretty helpful. So like, former athletes maybe that are here at Spring Hill, it's like, it could be super simple. Like if you tell an athlete what to do, they're typically like really good at it. So like, let's say someone keeps hitting the ball to the right. I literally sometimes can just say, do you know what that club face looks like when you hit the ball? And I'll be like, no. And I go, well, it's pointed over there. And I'm like, so on this one, like, let's have some fun. You can either have it straight but let's not let it stay open. Like, let's either hit it with a square face or even a closed face. And then, they snap hook one. I'm like, wow, you're really skilled. Let's calibrate that a little bit. So I don't know if that was a 100% exaggeration or a 50, but let's cut that one in half too. So if you're doing 50% there, let's go to 25. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, like, look, I could have told him 100 things to do to close the club face, but like, why would I interject if I can rely on just a super high level athlete? Now, they're not all athletes, right? People that you teach. So that's where it's like, well, what do you do for a living? Like a lot of people, like maybe there's a Fortune 500 CEO and it's like, he's really good at managing people, or he's really good at, data. I can say, look, we're just going to put the TrackMan club face number on the screen. And what I want you to do, I don't even care if you hit it like solid. Let's just get that number to be either square or negative closed. Sure. And then I'll ask you how you feel like you did that. So then there's a little bit more self-discovery. And that's what I've really learned, that like as a 28-year-old, that it's way more powerful if, especially someone older than you, can come to their own conclusion versus me saying, you really need to do a little bit more of this. Exactly. So it's going to be like, look, here's the number. Since you're a data guy, like your club face is 8 degrees open when you hit the ball. Let's get it to 0 or even -8 would be awesome. 8 degrees closed would be awesome. And then I'll ask them, hey, how did you do that? Like, what did you feel like you do? And I'll be honest, sometimes the answers, I'm like, I don't know if that's what I would have called it, but okay, perfect. Like, I'm glad that that's how you resonate.
Whatever works for you, am right?
Exactly. So that's kind of how I go about it. Now, to be honest, like I said, I don't have that perfected. I'm still trying to figure out what the best way is for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. What I have learned is if you can isolate like 1 or 2 things, the golf swing, there's so many things going on, but if you can isolate 1 or 2 things and you can get them hyper-focused on that and control the feedback that they're getting, which is why I think indoor golf lessons are better than outdoor golf lessons, because in an indoor golf lesson, if I'm telling someone to close the club face, I can put the club face number up and they have to work until they can't even see where the ball goes.
The results don't matter, right? Like it's more
exactly. I can take the other feedback that they're getting, I can take it away inside. And so powerful. But to answer your question, it's an ongoing process, but I'm trying to evaluate who the person is, what they're good at, maybe their challenges. And then I really try to lead them to self-discovery. Look, if they're still struggling, I won't let them fail 5 times.
You'll intervene. Yeah.
I'm going to intervene and tell them, hey, so, the backswing, it looks way too open. Let's try to like really keep it closed on the backswing. Something like that. Simple.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Let's chat. I'm trying to think where I want to go next. I would say one thing that I've really envied about your growth is your implementation of social media. I'd be curious to have you like share how, because you mentioned day one, you said you wanted to make just a small percentage of an impact.
Yeah.
Share what it's been like from your perspective to go from a first video you ever posted to now having a total follower count of, and let's test your awareness. How many followers do you have in total across all platforms?
Oh no. Let me think. 138 on Instagram. I think 25 or 27 on TikTok. Math is hard. Is that 165?
Yeah, we can round up.
And then I think YouTube has 10,000 subscribers.
So, I mean, let's just round up to, let's just say you've got over 200,000 followers, 200,000 people that you're making an impact.
But yeah, that's
from a social media standpoint, right? So you go from day one, I'm going to post my first video. And I guess I want to ask you first, what was that first video you ever posted?
I think it was a video. It was a photo first of a guy coming over the top in a lesson. And then a week later, he was too far from the inside.
Do you remember how many views it got?
It got 8 likes.
Okay. And when you went from that to what was your first viral video?
Yeah, I do remember this. So Golf Tech was just kind of putting their foot in the door with like posting videos. So I did like a video series on how to hit your driver farther. And I watched it like a year ago and deleted all of them because I hated them. They were terrible. But I remember Golf Tech took one, and Golf Tech had like 30,000 Instagram followers. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in a lesson, I was just finishing it up. And I remember I took my phone from face down to face up, and I had Instagram notification. I was like, no way, what happened? And Golf Tech just took one of my posts and reshared it. And it was terrible, but people like followed us. So I got like 70 followers from that. And I was like, oh my gosh, 70 people that aren't my family are following this account. So then I just stuck to it. And to be honest with you, it really helped me. Not that I'm great at it, but like talking in front of a camera or talking to a device or a phone or whatever, I feel like I'm more comfortable doing it now than I was. And it actually set the stage for me to be what I would call decently successful at online instruction, online lessons. So in 2024, I think I gave 1,000 online lessons, and that's to people all over the world. So again, that's that 1%. Can I make a 1% difference? You know,
I wonder what the math is on that. I have a feeling you're making a bigger impact than just 1%.
I don't know. I could be, you know,
doesn't matter.
I could be hurting people too, for all I know. So, New Zealand, like Finland, Canada, Arizona, Florida, Texas, like just all over the world. It's so cool to like get a video from a guy in a different country, and you're like, where are you?
Right.
So
that's so cool. So you're making an impact all over the world with
that.
this online thing. Combination of simply just posting content, right? And people can consume that. And then another sector of your business is the ability to give online lessons. And at some point in this episode, I want to give you an opportunity to plug all of your different sectors. But I want to talk about that because you're wearing a lot of hats, right? Like you're obviously your number one priority, at least I'm assuming, is your full-time job, right? Spring Hill is your priority and probably always will be. But you're also like, how cool is it that they're giving you the opportunity to grow outside of that as well? And you have this following of 200,000 people that trust you online from the content you're posting. And then beyond that, now you're opening your own physical location called Kraftygolf Studios, which I have to imagine is a literal dream.
Yeah.
And I can say that because I've lived similar dreams of yours, right? Like we've bonded over golf for years. But so that's a literal dream. You have this physical studio now that you get to call your own. And you're doing these online lessons, and people can book what I assume is literal virtual meetings with you that you get to critique and evaluate their swing. So how do you juggle all that? What's an average day in the life of Kraftygolf looking like nowadays?
Well, it's nice because, you know, right now, yes, it's very busy. Like we're getting ready to open the studio, and look, I'm not an influencer and I'm not a business owner. I am just a golf coach. So
but you are all of those things, you know that, right?
I'm trying to be. Yeah, right. So, but I'm not good at the other two. I think I'm okay at the golf coach part at this point.
Some would argue.
In 5 years, I'll look back and say I was an idiot for saying that. I wasn't any good back then, but that's how we learn and grow, right? A typical day, to be completely honest with you, it varies. But right now in January, we don't have a ton of members here. So I'm not doing a ton of in-person instruction for Spring Hill members at the moment. If you were to ask me what it's like in July or what it'll be like in
whole different world,
August, it's going to be insane because it's probably going to be 6 to 8 lessons a day here, and then more at the studio, and then more online lessons at night. Probably
joys of living in a 4 seasons state, right?
Yeah, right.
You got to kind of work around the weather.
For sure you do. So, you know, right now it's probably 3-4 lessons in person a day. Business stuff that pops up that I had no idea I would ever need to do, right? Just stuff that is like, oh, your adapter on the iPhone cameras you bought doesn't work. You need different adapters. Oh, okay. So different stuff like that. And then online coaching. So I've had this really, like, it's really fun, in my opinion, with online coaching to take advantage of the winter months, because I think online coaching can be the future of golf instruction for recreational players that want to completely like make meaningful big changes to their swing. So like, let's say you take it inside, come over the top, and you lose your posture through the ball. Like that's a bad sequence if you want to be a great player. Not to say you can't overcome it if you play a lot and you're very talented, you sure can. But like if you're someone who wants to like basically tear that down and repeat it, I have this program I'm doing right now. I limited it to 10 people. It's called the Off-Season Overhaul Program. And I go through and I teach them exactly how their body should move first. Then we learn downswings only, because the downswing's the fastest part of the swing. Then we snap back swings on it. And once they can do that perfectly without a ball, I'll have them hit foam golf balls like into their garage door or in the basement. They put 2 chairs up and a blanket over it. Like You can get so much done hitting a foam golf ball. Like people have no idea. As long as your ceilings are like 9 feet or taller, you can get it done.
Make a full swing.
So once I can get them to make their swing, create some of these like nice, meaningful changes, typically they're terrible at hitting the ball because they've got 100 thoughts, right? They're trying to do 10 different things. Totally understandable, right? That's where the foam ball comes in big time, because think about it. If someone told you to try something with your swing and you were like, all right, I'll try it right here, and you shanked it, what would you do? You'd be like, never doing that again. Right? Well, promise, like, listen, what I told you
doing the right things
is it's the right thing to do, but the feedback in your brain is where the feedback comes in. The feedback in your brain is going to tell you, dang, man, like, don't do that again. That sucked. Like, just avoid, go back to what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, if I can use foam balls and I can detect those things when they're hitting foam balls and be like, okay, so everything you've sent me has been off the toe. We have to correct that, or when you go to hit a real ball, you're going to hate this. Okay. So then I'll teach them, like, and look, as you learn different things pop up. So let's say one day they're hitting the toe, the next day they're just leaving the club face open. So my one rule when they hit foam balls, make mistakes. Make as many of them as you can. Just don't make the same one 3 times in a row. If you hit it to the right twice, hit the next one to the left. If you hit it off the toe twice, hit the next one off the heel. And that's not my science. That's Luke Benoit at Interlaken down in Edina. He has a PhD.
Shout out Luke.
Shout out Luke. He's the best. He's got his PhD in motor learning, and he completely understands how a brain needs to be rewired to create a motor program change like a golf swing is. So I've learned so much from Luke. It's been like, I think anybody can put up Nelly Corda's swing and then their swing and say, well, change this and this. But then, like, how do you actually do it? Luke's the best at that.
And how do you get your body to do it more consistently, right? I think that's amidst my very mediocre golf career, I think the one thing that I learned is like how much more important the mental aspect of the game is rather than the physical aspect. Like, as long as you can create a consistent result, even if it's not perfect, as long as you can mentally be in the right mindset to continue to do that not perfect but controllable result,
totally,
the easier it is to stay consistent with it, right?
It's such a cliche that like golf is a game of misses, but like I think Hogan said, I hit like 4 good shots around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that totally makes sense. This is the scariest thing I'll tell people when they're trying to get good at golf. I'll be like, I want you to imagine you're hitting a driver, right? And then imagine a clock, right? Like a big just hand clock, right? 1 second on a clock, just one tick, right? Well, if a clock is 360 degrees and there's 60 seconds, that means that each tick is 6 degrees. I'm going to test your physics here. If you hit a driver 250 yards and you're off 6 degrees, 1 second, how far off the fairway did you miss the shot?
A long ways. I don't know exact math, but it's a long ways.
It's like 58 or 60 yards. So
you're what, 1.5, 2 holes over, probably?
Yeah, exactly. You're 60 yards from the middle of the fairway. You're in the other hole probably, and everyone's looking at you like you're the worst thing ever. Dude, you were off by a second. Like, it's a miracle any of us have hit a fairway. Seriously. Like, it's unbelievable. So we have all this human movement variability, so it's called, and it's just so hard, right? So that's where I think in my teaching, I've really valued the difference between, I'd call it skill and mechanics. I think that when you look at the mechanics, boy, Adam Scott, right? Like, that's how you should swing the club. However, did Adam Scott win every tournament? Nope. No, he didn't. So there must be something more than just how pretty is my swing, right? And that's where I think the skill and the performance side of things are. So like Bubba Watson, great example of the skill. Would you teach that? Would anyone really like hope their kid grows up to swing like Bubba? Like I hope they get the results like him, right? But we're teaching people, like, don't swing like Bubba. Well, he's got 2 green jackets, right? And a lot of career.
Clearly did something right.
So he's doing something right. So I would say Bubba's an example of a very skilled player. Adam Scott, an example of mechanically like beautiful, perfect,
almost flawless, arguably,
player. And then there's only one person who's ever had, like, I think both of them maxed out. It's Tiger Woods.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good at golf. So I think players need to make sure they are building both sides of the spectrum. You can't just have great looking swing, and you can't just be really talented. You need to have a little bit of both. And that's where I think, like, when I'm doing these programs online, I will make sure we touch on the mechanics, but then also I think the ability to alternate hitting the toe and the heel on purpose, that's a skill. Like, you need to get good at that. There's nothing I can tell you to do that. We're talking about half an inch down there. Like, on the way.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah, right.
But there is something that's you're spot on there. And I think another important piece too is like realizing that everybody's goal with the result is different, right? Obviously not every average golfer is out there trying to win a green jacket. So it's like, how do you define your success rate with the lesson that you're getting? Is it simply just being able to make contact with the ball? Is it being able to hit it 20 yards further, 15 yards further, 5 yards further? Everybody's definition of success is different.
Totally. That's where I'll look, I'm not going to give you any advice until you tell me what problem we're trying to solve. I could play picture match with Rory and Nelly Korda in your swing all day if that's what you want to do. But is that going to make you better at golf? I doubt it. Maybe if we pick the right thing, luckily. Yep. But what I'd rather do is hey, why don't you tell me? This is my favorite thing to do in lessons, and I hope nobody gets offended by this. I'll always ask so tell me what's going on, right? And I'm waiting for them to say one thing about where the golf ball goes, but they'll say, well, I know I don't keep my head down and my arms are bending and my buddy tells me everything's way too quick. And I know my knee should go this way, but I think it goes this way. And then when I get to the ball, I'm just so nervous of it and all this stuff. And I write them all down, right? I'm being respectful. And I go, all right, why don't you tell me what the golf ball does now? And I go, oh, it goes to the right.
Okay. You don't say.
We can fix that. So that's a fun thing for me to just absorb, because I think there's a lot of stuff out there, mush, maybe not so good for golfers, that they think they should be doing. And I'll say right now, you don't have to keep your head down. You can bend your arms and you can do basically anything in a golf swing and it can work. So it's always fun to hear what people think they're doing and then help them solve the ball flight. I'm not interested in making you look perfect most of the time. What can I do to help you hit more playable shots and have more fun? That's what most of them want.
What would be your two most important tips that you'd give on the spot without ever seeing a golf swing in order to be more successful at the game?
Is that mechanics only or just anything?
Sure. Whatever first things that come to mind, two tips you would give any average golfer if they want to get better at the game.
Number one, your club face is probably open. If you're above a 20 handicap, it's probably open. And your over the top move is a move to make sure it doesn't go to the right more than it already does. So that's maybe number one. Number two is every golfer can listen to this. You are shooting a shotgun, not a sniper rifle. You have no idea what bullet, what pellet you're going to get when you line up to hit a shot. Expectation management is so real and so powerful. When we hit a shot, we have a dispersion pattern it's just going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get a small pull, a weak fade. You're not sure what you're going to get. So aiming that shotgun pattern in the right spot is literally the key to improving your scores without doing anything to your golf swing. I'll never forget, Scott Fawcett gets all the credit for all this. He made the decade program. I remember listening to him give a seminar a few years ago, and there's the craziest thing. He goes to, I think it was Aaron Wise, number 50 ranked player in the world. And he goes up, he goes, Aaron, how far do you hit your 7-iron? He goes, I hit 190 yards. He goes, all right, let's go pick a flag. We'll go hit 20 shots. And I'll never forget, he hit it everywhere except for 190 yards at his target. He hit 20 shots, and there was I want to say an 18-yard vertical distribution and almost a 25-yard horizontal distribution. And it's there's only 48 players better than him in the world. 49, bad math. There's only 49 better players than him in the entire world. And this dude doesn't know where it's going. And he was pleased, right? I don't think he had a terrible range session. And it was 27 irons in a row, which tends to create better results than 5-iron, 7-iron, driver 7-iron, sand wedge 7-iron. It just tends to. So that was really eye-opening to me. It's man, we can talk about your swing all you want, but if you're not making reasonable decisions out there, we've got no chance.
Yeah. When you have to understand, right? I would say that's probably one thing that's helped me a lot is understanding numbers as far as finding a consistent distance that most of your clubs are going so that you know what clubs to pull, right? Half the battle is making sure you got the right bat and the right weapon before you ever approach a shot. Because if you don't pull the right club, you're never going to see good enough results.
No, and I think I could add generic advice to this too. How many times you've been over the green? Probably not very often. right? You should be aiming to finish the golf ball at the back third of the green if you're above a 15 handicap almost all the time, right?
Yeah.
Now, is long more punishing than short? Yes. Yes.
Well, it depends on the course too, right? Like
most of the time, yeah, greens are sloped back to front normally. But look, I would challenge everybody to like track your stats this year on approach play. How many times are you short, on the green, and over the green? You will be mind blown
how often you're short.
Yeah, how often they're short and how little they're long. It's like 60% short, 20% on the no, it's probably 65% short, 25% on the green.
And I'm just assuming here, but if I were to guess, probably the reason for that is because they pull the club that's the quote unquote perfect number, right?
Usually.
And the second that you don't hit that shot, quote unquote perfect,
right,
it's probably not going to go the distance you want it to.
Totally. And it's funny. It's like people think, they hit everyone now on Instagram too, they hit their 7-iron 185. And that's crazy because I think Colin Morikawa hits a 172.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, we've got to be realistic and you have to understand what you hit it one time, downwind out of the intermediate cut where it probably didn't have much backspin.
A little bit of a flyer.
Is probably not what you hit it on average. So if I asked you to hit this shot 1,000 times, what would be the best club to hit and where would be the smartest place to aim? If we needed to hit this shot 1,000 times, what would you tell me? Like people are just way too often trying to hit the hero shot and they want to hit their 9-iron 150. They want to hit their 7-iron 180. Look, that's not what anyone cares about, right? Like it's not how far, it's how many.
Yeah. And how quickly can you get in the hole, right?
Yeah, right.
And it also doesn't matter what bat you use, what club what club it takes to get the ball in the hole.
And lofts are so different. I don't think we're that far off from like irons just being, you don't have an 8-iron anymore. You have a 39 degree and then you have a 36, 35.
It doesn't matter. It's a pride thing almost more than anything. It seems like, oh, well, you're hitting 7, I'm hitting 5, you wimp.
Yeah. And it's so funny because like most of the time there's a lot of things that go into how an iron creates distance and how a backswing and a downswing, like all the mechanics that you have in your swing create impact. There are certainly players who maybe have the club face in a way stronger position and they de-loft the club a lot more and they have their hands way forward and they turn that 9-iron down to like a 7-iron. Those guys hit their irons really far and everyone gets jealous of them, but then they get to the tee and they only hit their driver about as average as everyone else. So it's super interesting when I'm playing now. When I play, I'm very distracted now. I'm not really paying attention to probably myself as much as I should be. But then I'll, if I see one guy who has maybe an open face and a pretty flippy release who hits the ball really high and short, if he pulls 7-iron and then the guy who hits it really far pulls 7-iron, it's just crazy to see the differences. And just like maybe their swing speed isn't all that different, but how they get to the ball is way different. And that changes how far the golf ball goes. So,
yeah. And there's so many variables. I think that's the one thing that is wild about the game is so many different things can impact the result. Totally. But like you said, the controlling of the result as much as you can is what you want to try to take care of,
yes, you can
in the right places.
Yeah. Aim that dispersion pattern in a nice, safe, optimal spot.
I like it. I want to circle back to your social media following again too, and kind of the growth. We kind of started talking about I think where we kind of left off was your first viral video. We kind of spiraled into the most recent conversation. But so, I mean, now that you've got this following from afar, from my perspective, it's been really cool because you've gotten to work with some pretty cool people, right? Like you've gotten to collaborate with the PGA. I guess kind of tell us how many bridges has that, or how many doors has that opened for you as a lover of the game? And what's some of the coolest things you've gotten to do with the following you've gained?
Well, that's a good question. I always answer most of these. I start by saying I probably had an opportunity to pursue some influencer stuff, and I've drawn the line in the sand real hard. Golf coach, not influencer. So although I completely understand like what I post is going to usually get quite a bit of views, I don't view myself as like the person sharing the beauty products and the like those are influencers.
So you're not playing in the Creator Classic next year? Is that?
No, I'm not playing in that. Like if anything, I'll be down there filming swings to like try and learn some stuff. But
yeah,
it's opened a lot of doors. So like, for example, this online coaching thing, I think it's going to be the future of golf instruction. Probably the PGA of America. We have next week, actually, it's called the PGA show. It's down in Orlando. They've asked me to be on a panel to talk about, growing a social media platform to then create an online coaching business. Like,
Yep.
so I'm going to be up there at the PGA show, which 5 years ago I would have had to like beg to even go, right?
Yeah.
And they're inviting me to come, not just attend, right? Speak and talk about like how can other coaches, gain an online coaching business or get some online lessons and coach that way. That's probably the coolest thing that's happened so far, although a lot of the other ones escape me. Like working with the PGA has been really cool. It was sometime in July. They asked me to like, Sauce Gardner was on his big golf kick. He got like, I don't know how long NFL players get off, but he was golfing like every day, posting stuff. And the PGA took a saved video of his swing, sent it to me and said, hey, can you just do like a quick 45, 60-second video for Sauce? And I was like, sure, no problem. Now, mind you, I did this video like dripped in sweat after 8 hours of lessons, and it was my first take. Like I had zero intention of it ever blowing up, but it got like 10 million views in 2 days. And my phone was blowing up. I'll never forget the New York Times called me and asked me for an interview. I did a 20-minute phone call with the New York Times, which was like, what? And then the Minnesota Business Journal called and they did a story on me that week as well. So that was an insane week. And it's just the power of social media and how
Pretty
fast you can reach different, is absurd. The coolest part was Sauce answered the tweet that the PGA sent out and said like, thanks coach. Like, you're definitely right. I'm on those things. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And that got just as many views as anything else, right? Because he's Sauce Gardner. So if you add up all the tweets and retweets and Sauce and the PGA, I think it was like 10 million views in just a few days. And it was unreal.
Wild.
To have the New York Times too, like unbelievable.
And I think my favorite part about it all though is like the fact that your heart behind it all hasn't changed. It'd be really easy for you to get that kind of reaction and think like, okay, well, this is going to be a money grab now. I'm going to take all these opportunities to get all this free stuff or all these big checks or anything like that. And amidst all of this recognition, you still have one goal in mind, right? And that's simply to make an impact, make people better at golf. That's it.
People. Yeah, for sure.
You just want to help people be better.
Yeah, and I get messages from some golf training aids or, some products and like gear. I've done like a little bit of that if I believe in the product, but look, you're not going to go on my page and see like ads for stuff. You're not going to see, I'm a Titleist staff member, but I don't like, buy this new driver. Like you're not going to see that out of me because I literally just want what's best for the person on the other side of the screen. Now, if you look, I do have a saved album in my phone of all the hate comments that I've got. Those are pretty funny. Those people.
How do you never get that?
It's really tough. I think, my faith in Jesus is really important there. Just trying to treat everyone as I would assume Jesus would have treated them. But then also like sometimes you kind of got to defend yourself a little bit. Like, hey, I totally get where you're coming from. I used to do a little bit more of that probably when I was a little newer to this. I would try to defend, my thoughts and my beliefs and why I told people to do this and why I didn't. But now I usually just say, thanks for the feed. Like the best one I ever got was, it was a video about a grip, how to put your grip on a club. And someone just out of nowhere said, dude's never done a bicep curl in his life. That was
little does he know that's probably true, right?
Probably true. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, you get like all this people attacking your personality, people attacking your voice, your body, what you teach. And like, I've learned most of the time to just take it with a grain of salt, push it off to the side. Some people like, I'll say, I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. And you can tell there's probably a little sarcasticness in there, but at the same time, there's no value in like punching them back or being.
There's not. Yeah. And it comes back to the root again, why you're doing it in the first place, right? Like you're not doing it to gain a bunch of new friends or anything like that. You just want to grow the game. And if that does it, if you do that to 99% of the people and the 1% dislikes the way you do it, you can't let yourself lose sleep over that at night. But
yeah, I try not to. It used to really bug me, and I get in these long comment battles about why I did something. But now, look, I've done enough of these that I really do know, not everything, but I know a lot about what's going to work and what's probably not going to work.
Yeah,
options that people have, and like, if people want to disagree, that's totally fine. I'd love to hear why you disagree, and I'll try to learn from that. But if you're just an internet troll, you probably don't know what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, and I think that I've came to you for advice on social media and stuff, and like you have an understanding of what it takes to get a video to get views, right? I think that's a
Totally.
safe. Now, you
Yeah.
and I have talked about this too. It's a lot easier when the content you're posting about is just something that people have interest in, right? So the game of golf in general has a large audience of curiosity on ways to improve. So
Totally.
I think that's easier. But I guess I'd love to have you chat just from a high level. What are like 2 or 3 things that you would recommend from an average person, maybe even outside of the golf industry, on like how to find a video or how to make a video successful and get attraction? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think two big things. When I want a video to do well, I've gotten past the whole I need to make sure this video gets a ton of views, and I kind of just post what I want. I post what's on my mind. I post what like trends we see in instruction. I post things from online lessons. Like I try to keep the page filled, but I definitely don't like pursue viral videos. At
Mhm.
one point, I probably tried a little harder to do that once I understood what created them. But honestly, a lot of trial and error. So I figured out what worked and what didn't.
Mhm.
Honestly, the biggest things I would say, I already lost my train of thought. Nice job. But number one is going to be creating a video that like resonates with you have to solve a problem for a person, right? So like
Yeah.
a video about call it coming over the top typically does a lot better than a video about how to hit a bunker shot, right? Like are both probably possible to get a lot of views? Of course they are. But more people, I would say, are interested in solving a slice than they are. Look, they're not going to get out of the bunker most of the time on the first try anyway, right? So
Yeah.
they're not as interested in that. They more so want to quit. Or like, I'm trying to think of like a different, like a world example. Like how to maximize your return on your taxes would probably get more views than how to make sure you don't get mud on your feet after you jog through the woods. Like
Yeah.
who's jogging through the woods and who cares about the model? Like, you know what I mean? Everybody has filed taxes. So more people are going to be apt to watch that video, than the other ones. And then the other one I would say, boy, I had two good ones and I should have said them first. So the one
You're
is
good.
grabbing the viewer's attention, right? And having like a good plan or a good content or a good topic, I guess, that a lot of people are going to want to watch.
Mhm.
Trying to think of the other one. Ask your question again. I'll think of it.
I mean, I basically just asked like, what's if you were to give somebody who's just like high level or maybe not as often posting or anything like that, and is just looking for, to
Oh,
make a bigger impact, right?
I remember.
Okay.
Find like 10 or 15 like accounts that post content that would be similar to you and like, look, I didn't invent any of this stuff. I watched
Mhm.
other people that were good at it and I watched what they did and I tried to like basically put my own spin on it, but basically copy like, I don't know, is that a 10-second video or a 60-second video? Oh, well, his 10-second videos do way better. Is
Yeah.
he using a bunch of hashtags? Is he not using hashtags? What hashtags does he use? Like I do that too. Is he talking to the camera or is there like text on the screen? Well,
Yeah.
think about this is where it goes back to like think about your viewer. He or she probably at work, probably in school, probably doesn't want to listen to your voice, probably would just
Yep.
rather read the captions, right? So that's where like as I started to pick up on that stuff, that's when my videos started to get a little bit better. So if you're someone who's looking to like just get more views, I guess
Be
I
a
would say
student.
yeah, exactly. Go be a student. Go write down, 5 or 10 things that the videos that do really well in your industry are
Yeah.
doing, and then do your best. Like, don't copy their stuff, of course, but like their ideas and their format, I guess you could try and like use that a little bit and test different things. I try
Yeah.
to post short videos and long videos now because I think the long videos actually they don't get as many views, but I think the quality of the viewer is much higher. Like those people are invested in what I have to say. So I'm still going to post that stuff because I think they're learning and they like what I have to say. So I'm going to keep posting it,
And at
even
the
if it
same
gets
time, you're being authentic to your heart behind it, right? Like
totally.
you can't, if you don't have the heart behind posting or wanting to grow or anything like that, and the reason why you're doing it is to make an impact on golfers, right? Like you want to make
Totally.
a positive impact on golfers, no different than me posting about mortgage content is
Yep,
I want to make a positive impact on people's home buying experience. And if
yep,
you don't have that heart behind it and the reason why you do it, there's no benefit or reason or desire to post it yourself, and the quality will lack, but also at the same time the viewership will lack too, because people can sense that you don't have a desire to be there or do it. You can't force the issue, if that makes sense.
no, totally. And if like that's why if I wanted to chase a million view video, like it would be super probably like clickbaity, like,
Yeah.
like a lot of the graphics and the like in your face, like draw your attention to it type of stuff. And like I said, that's where I drew the line. I'm like, you know what? I'm not an influencer. I don't want that stuff. Like
Yeah.
I want to help people that want help with
Mhm.
their golf game. And so
And you
that's
want to do
where,
it the right way.
yeah, and I want to do it the right way. There's nothing that's like, and look, like we don't get paid by Instagram to get views or to post stuff, right? Like
Yep.
it really is just to like kind of organically share my thoughts. And then selfishly as an instructor, look, it's hard. There are hard lessons out there, but like if I post something that maybe some other instructors don't agree with, most instructors are amazing. They'll either not say anything, or I really appreciate the ones that do say something and they tell me why they disagree with it. It's a great educational, like learning opportunity. The more I post, the more instructors see it, the more they grow their toolbox, or they tell me, hey, I think what you said probably resonates with these people, but be careful of this, or have you ever seen this? And it just creates good discussion. And I will never disagree with anything anyone says on teaching golf, because I literally think anything can work. It's the craziest game in the world. But selfishly, it's an education tool for me. I see a lot of great stuff from other instructors. Hardly any of the drills I use, like I don't create those. I see them being used elsewhere, and I try to find great spots for them to be applicable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good education tool for me. And I like,
so collaborating with other industry professionals that have been through it before or have different opinions can help better your craft, which then in turns, no pun intended with the name, by the way, can better your craft to make a better impact on the people that you get the opportunity to coach. No different than in my world, I should be able to openly converse with other mortgage professionals to make sure that I'm educating in the right manner, right? So that's
and look, I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I'm still new at this, and if I have a student that maybe he's not seeing the progress he wants, maybe I have a couple different ideas or options for him, and I don't know what the best is. I'm gonna ask Luke Benoit, who's given 30,000 golf lessons. I'm gonna ask other guys that have done this more than me and that are better than me. If someone's trusting me, like I'm gonna exhaust every resource I have to help them. I'm not too proud to say I don't know everything, but I feel like I know enough to help most people. And if I don't know the answers,
you have resources.
I'm gonna, because I'm on the quest just as much as anyone else. Like I want to know the key to consistency, right? So that's what drives me. And
and none of it's selfish, right? Like that's my favorite part about it, is that none of it is for your own benefit. It's just literally to make an impact, and you find joy in navigating this ever evolving game and what you're faced with. So
totally. It's not, I mean, the only thing I get from it is online lessons, which look, I don't think how good is a person's social media tip should ever really influence if you want to get an online lesson from them.
Right.
But it's a way to get like your face in front of people.
It gives them a glimpse, right? It gives them a glimpse into what to expect when they actually book an appointment with you.
Totally. Yeah.
Is the way I would say it.
So that really, I guess if you wanted to point fingers and say, you only do this for this or that, like that would be one thing you could say, well, the more you post, the more people see it, the more maybe people take online lessons. Well,
yeah, because at the end of the day, you still got to support your family, right? Like it's not like you want to just not work or not make an income to support your family. Like you've still got to have an income driven mindset with it, but doing it in a way that's authentic and organic is.
And I would still post if it, like, look, I started online lessons last year and I've been posting for 5 years up to that. So I don't post just for that, but I think posting good content, giving people a glimpse, maybe that does make them a little more interested in online lessons. Honestly, some of my online lessons too, like they're people from 30 minutes away that want a check-in on how their progress was from their last in-person lesson. So possibilities are endless, but I would just say like, I'm doing it to try and help by 1%. I'm not really doing it for any other reason than that.
I love it. So good. So we've kind of touched on all three different hats you're wearing. I want to give you an opportunity to plug all of your businesses again. Where can people find you? What would be your vision behind this? If anybody's listening to this video, how can they get in touch with you to try to be impacted by you?
Yeah, my DMs on Instagram, I check them every day. I'm not a guy that has followers and just like doesn't respond to people. If you DM'd me and I didn't see it, I apologize. It probably got lost in a bunch of spam, but keep sending me messages. I will answer. So you can DM me at any time. Instagram is Kraftygolf. The Kraftygolf website now has an instruction tab, and if you want to book an online lesson, like it's obviously on my Instagram, but it's also on that website.
Okay.
The Kraftygolf Studio is where I'll be giving my non-Spring Hill lessons, right? So that's going to be opening up here anytime. If anybody from anywhere wants to come in and have a lesson and get on all that technology and measure what's happening, not guess, measure what's happening and put together a good plan for you, we can do that. If you're not local to the area and you want to come up once and then follow up with online stuff, like we can do that. Literally every option is on the table. If you don't have like technology, I guess my email is kraftygolf@gmail.com. I try to respond to those as well. But other than that, you can find me. Like I said, I'm pretty active on social media. TikTok, I think it's getting banned. Maybe it's
TBD.
We'll see.
We'll see if it's still around in a couple weeks, right?
Threads, I'm on. Not really. Twitter, X, I guess I'm kind of on, but not really.
Yeah.
So Instagram's the best one, probably.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I just, again, if anybody sees these stuff and you were looking for advice when it comes to golf, I can't recommend Justin enough with his insight and creativity on how to help people win. So be sure to check him out there. Before we wrap up, I want to kind of just like reminisce a little bit on the good old days. Is there anything that like stands out to you about our days back in high school or anything like that that you feel is imperative for the listeners to know about?
So when I look back on that time, we both, I would say, at least I can firmly say, my golf swing was not very good. Like just from a mechanical perspective, but we played 36 holes a day and we got to play them in 5 hours, right? So we played ridiculously fast. We played a ton. Guess what? We developed a lot of skill, right? Like if you missed it short right on hole 4 at Spring Lake, you had to hit the low punch cut 4-iron around those trees that sat by the creek. And we learned how to do it. You had to miss the bridge handles and you had to, like, I had to hit that shot so many times because I hit it there. I figured out how to do that. I had no idea. I could not explain it to a dog what I was doing, but I could show you how to hit the shot, right? So I feel like I really developed that ability to just create the outcome I want, but it didn't really matter how it looked because I didn't have any idea what it was supposed to look like.
Because we didn't have the technology, right? We didn't have a range. We didn't have a TrackMan. We didn't have any of that stuff.
Technology, we had nothing. But
the only technology I remember we're using was the headlights of our cars to continue to chip on 4 green. But at the end of the night,
we were chipping and putting. Yeah, I think there was even a time where we didn't have rangefinders or we couldn't use them in high school. So the only thing we had was the 150 post. Like that's your.
Which who knows if that was accurate?
Who knows? Yeah, was that to the front, to the middle, to the back?
Yeah, I'll never forget the nights where you and I mean, it was 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it was after dark, and the lady was looking to close up the pro shop, but we were still looking to chip and putt on the green. So we pulled our car over, shined it on the green, and just
chipped and like
kept practicing.
Invaluable lessons there too, right? Like that's where the love for the game is really like. Obviously, like I remember getting in the car, and my parents would be like, "You're not at the golf. Where are you? Like it's 9:15." I'm like, "No, seriously.
No, I'm still here. I promise."
Here's a picture. Like I am here. So yeah, that stuff was always fun, and I think the skills we developed, unmatched, and then also just the passion you get for being like, you got to get 3 in a row up and down before you leave. Like that's like the mental side as well. Like how gritty can I be? How tough can I be? If I want to go home, I got to get this one up and down.
And having somebody else too that loved it just as much as we did, right? Like I think that's probably my favorite part is, especially in small town Iowa, which is where we grew up. Obviously, it's not every day you run into somebody or grow up with somebody who loves the game as much as you do. Right. So to have that and in our friendship, like, was so cool that we loved the game, and obviously you've taken it and turned it into a career. I literally am just a leisure player at this point anymore, but it just that. Those few fond memories I have like developed over the last 20 years of me playing the game of golf and like continued that. And you hit the nail on the head earlier that you literally said this game is a lifetime game, right? And if you stay up to date and stay healthy and everything along those lines, you can play the game of golf for the rest of your life. And I just have to say thank you for continuing to instill that passion in me. And even though we live 4.5 hours apart from each other, you're still making an impact on my desire and love for the game. So thanks for your friendship, dude. And thanks for the good days. Those were a lot of fun. So
you bet, man. We need to make more of them. We got to come up.
I know. Well, you're a father now, so that's exciting news in your family. How's everything been going with the little one?
Really good. Yeah, she's awesome. She's amazing. That's a whole new chapter in life too. Katie's doing really good. My wife's doing really good as well. So everybody's doing good. I got to be the only person crazy enough to try and have like 3 jobs and have a kid and open a business.
Is it everything you ever expected?
The kid or everything else?
No, just you're being a dad, being a father.
Being a dad is everything everyone told it would be, and then an extra 30%. Like
Yeah.
it's amazing, and it's dog tiring, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to being able to like go home and like, all right, I just worked like 10 hours, like I'm gonna relax. Well,
Yeah.
now when you get home, like, guess what? She just worked for 10 hours with the baby. It's your turn. So then
Mhm.
it's like, okay, it's my turn to take care of the kid. But there's effort that goes into that, but the reward you get back is
Yeah.
bar none the best thing ever. So it's amazing. Looking forward to seeing how she grows. And we were doing a little like grip strength training the other
There you
day
go. You're working on the golf grip.
because the stronger your hands are, usually the faster you can swing a club. So just kind of trying, we're
Well,
9 weeks in now.
she's what, 1 month old now, so she'll be on the LBGA tour by when? I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
right. I
17 and
hope
a
if
half
she
years from now,
decides to
probably.
play golf, I hope she really enjoys it. And if she wants advice, I will give it to her. If she doesn't, I'm going to shut my mouth and let her have fun because that's how I got to enjoy the game by not getting overcoached. So I'm going to let
Yeah.
her do it too.
Yeah, and that's another thing I always remember about us growing up too is your dad was always willing to, navigate your crazy schedule or come out and play and give advice as much as he could, and that was
Totally.
always a bond that you two had too. So
Yeah, totally. He would come out. If I asked for a video, his camera angles were terrible, but he'd get a video. He'd take me occasionally to like a lesson later on in high school and college. He'd take me to Sioux City to the closest. It was a 2 hour drive to the closest golf instructor, right?
proper club, yeah.
Right. So he'd take me there. He was the biggest supporter I ever had. And I think he probably still thinks to this day, if I wanted, I could play professionally. And I don't think that's true at all. But he's been my biggest believer, my biggest supporter. So shout out,
Yeah.
Dad.
Shout out John for sure. Well, no, this has been good, man. I said this before we started recording, but I think you and I could sit here and chat for 4.5, 5 hours. But I've really enjoyed the insight you've given. I've enjoyed just learning more about your journey into your career, and ultimately that's always my number one priority is to just learn more about the heart behind how you do what you do, and give you a platform to hopefully make a bigger impact, right? Because that's what it's all about. So appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you being a resource for the listeners. And I'm going to leave you with one final question. And if you've never made it to the end of my podcast, you don't know what's about to come. And I didn't give you any preparation into this, but I always leave all my guests with, I need you to tell me where's the best chicken wings you've ever had.
Bar none. I have the answer, and it's going to be the best answer you've had. It is the Asian sesame wings at Mr. P's Pizza House in Lamar's, Iowa. And it is not close. And I think there's another in Dakota Dunes. I think there's another location, but
okay,
it's not B-Dubs. It's not like, dude, Mr. P's Pizza House has the best chicken wings I've ever. So July 7th was my birthday. I took 2 days off. I went to Iowa with pregnant wife at the time and my family. Yep. I forced them. They said, "What do you want for your birthday?" I said, "I forced them." We drove an hour and 45 minutes to Lamar's, Iowa. I got Asian sesame wings, and I was the happiest camper in the world. Those things are so good. I wish that's the one thing I wish was in Minnesota.
I'm taking notes. That's if you don't know this about me, it's one of my biggest hobbies is finding the best chicken wings. So I'm taking notes on all of it. I appreciate the feedback and look forward to making a road trip up there. Maybe that's not exactly halfway, but maybe I can meet you there somehow. And
let's think. You're from Des Moines. Yeah, that's kind of on your way to like Sioux Falls. Or if you were ever going to go play golf in like Omaha, you could maybe Sioux City it and then go. I don't know. Best way to do that. But
make it happen.
You have to try it. Or like, I don't know how far DoorDash will go, but like.
Not that far. Promise you. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, dude, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I thank for the insight and excited to see where your continued growth comes and appreciate you being an insight. So thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, you bet. Pleasure's all mine. It was great catching up.
All right. And I'll link all your stuff in the description below too. So if you guys want to check out Crafty Golf, be sure to check out the links in the description below. Thanks for joining us. And this has been another episode of the Brady Haye Mortgage Team podcast. Thanks, everybody.